In Prime City, Joe and Willow spent 7 long years wishing for a child. When Jayden finally arrived, they made a silent parenting pact to give him absolutely everything. No chores, no responsibilities, just unconditional comfort. By removing all struggle from Jayden's daily life, his parents created a psychological hazard. An environment devoid of challenges creates a friction vacuum. Without minor daily resistances to push against, a child never develops the psychological calluses required to handle real-world stress. In human psychology, a vacuum never stays empty. Imagine a hidden boardroom where our worst impulses, like tardiness, anger, and arrogance, hold a literal summit to track human behavior. They are constantly scanning for the path of least resistance. Look at this conceptual model. When a person lacks internal boundaries, that friction vacuum acts as a magnet. For a boy who has never been asked to do anything difficult, he becomes the optimal host for 3 specific parasitic traits: inertia, dishonesty, and arrogance. Giving a child endless comfort seems like the highest form of love. Instead, it carves out an empty space inside them, a void perfectly shaped for parasitic behaviors to take root and grow. By the time Jayden turned 14, the takeover was complete. Those 3 traits physically latched onto his psyche, steering his actions from behind the scenes. The symptoms materialized fast. Jayden started sleeping past noon and ignored basic household tasks. It escalated to the point where he took a classmate's lunch because he didn't like his own. When his worried parents finally confronted him, asking him to get a job and stand on his own 2 feet, Jayden didn't apologize. He weaponized their generosity. He argued that since they spoiled him as a child, his current laziness was their own doing. This pushed his family away, leaving Jayden isolated. The constant drag of inertia made him physically exhausted, while his dishonesty severed his remaining friendships. When deeply ingrained routines take over, a person's locus of control, their belief in their ability to steer their own life, shifts outward. They stop being the driver and become a helpless passenger, dragged along by external conditioning. Eventually, the misery of being a passenger reached its breaking point. Staring at his ceiling at 4 a.m., Jayden felt the physical weight of his own isolation, an exhaustion that sleep couldn't fix. He stepped into the morning air simply because the silence of his room had become more uncomfortable than the effort of walking. In the city park, he met Clive, the park's gardener. Clive pointed out a cluster of weeds near the garden's strongest tree. Warning Jayden might if left alone, these weeds would drain the life out of the entire park. Clive shared the absolute rule of maintaining the grounds. A weed's danger lies in its expansive underground root system. The visible leaves are only the surface-level symptom of a much deeper anchor. Jayden gripped the tools. He spent the next several hours in back-breaking labor, prying the soil apart to reach the base of each plant. This was slow, manual work that demanded extreme patience. Deep-rooted habits operate exactly like these botanical parasites. You cannot fix them with a positive affirmation. Extracting them from the mind requires deliberate, mechanical, and highly uncomfortable effort. Seeing the boy covered in dirt but victorious, Clive revealed his true nature. He was the dragon of boons, and Jayden's rare display of physical persistence had earned him a reward. Clive handed Jayden 3 magical artifacts: the Ring of Honesty, the Ring of Discipline, and the Ring of Love. These were specific antidotes designed to counteract his specific flaws. These 3 rings functioned as powerful psychological anchors. While the shadow on his back pulled him down, the Ring of Discipline allowed him to keep moving 1 lap at a time. Next came his interactions with his classmates. He stood in front of them and forced out a difficult confession about stealing the lunches, choking the words out while his own ingrained dishonesty fought to keep his mouth shut. Breaking a behavioral loop is a brutal, daily war of attrition against your own carefully conditioned impulses. He delivered a sincere, difficult apology to his parents for his past arrogance, and he bought baskets of muffins to repay the friends he had stolen from. Over time, he quietly took off the magic rings. He simply didn't need them anymore. Inside his head, his brain had a massive, optimized red pathway for bad habits and a weak green pathway for deliberate choices. Through daily repetition of honest actions, Jayden widened the green pathway. As he chose discipline, the red pathway starved and eventually disconnected. External tools, whether they are magical rings or productivity apps, are only temporary scaffolds. True behavioral change is achieved the moment a deliberate choice is repeated enough times to become your brain's new default setting. Years later, Jayden grew into a successful, deeply humble adult. He held a steady job, earned the respect of his peers, and lived free from the exhaustion that used to dictate his days. Despite all his accomplishments, he never forgot Clive, and he never forgot the physical ache of digging those toxic weeds out of the dirt. This story applies to us. Every human mind operates like a highly fertile garden, and it is exceptionally susceptible to whatever parasitic seeds blow in on the wind. Leaving your mind unmonitored will always invite a behavioral takeover. But by applying consistent patience, practicing genuine empathy, and stubborn persistence, anyone can uproot their worst flaws and reclaim command of their life.